Without my faith, my life doesn't make any sense at all.
Actually, by the time I was 8, I was in a brownie. I actually got kicked out of the brownies because I wouldn't take the brownie oath because it mentioned God in it. So by that point, I know God was out of the picture for me.
I felt really drawn here by the beauty of the place and the quiet atmosphere and the life of prayer.
I felt called to be a nun when I was very young. I was just probably about 9 or 10, and I had sisters in school. And I had a sense that I really wanted to just live for God, and the sisters seemed to be doing that, and so I wanted to be like them.
I was raised in a Protestant family, so my family's not Catholic. But when I was 12 years old, I wondered why there were so many Christian churches and all one faith. I was really pondering that, and I remember I heard the word Catholic, and it really struck me. I fell deeper in love with the faith as I learned.
I didn't grow up going to church real much. We weren't big churchgoers, but I had a sense of God early on in my life, but somewhere along the line I just lost it. But then when I was 17, I started having this dream. It was a dream of a crucified man. I didn't identify it with Jesus, although I knew the Christian story, but it was disturbing, and I found myself not wanting to have the dream. So I would try to stay up so I wouldn't fall asleep and have this dream. After sort of just being so tired of losing all this sleep, I thought, well, I'm going to confront, I'm going to ask him what he's doing, or just sort of confront him. So the next time I had the dream, the words that came to me were, "I'm doing this for you." And I remember it just ran through my head. I said, well, I sure never asked you to. I didn't want to be responsible for that. It just felt like too much. And the response I got was, no, you didn't. And somehow that just broke through my heart, this idea that it's just an experience of love. And I woke up crying, and I woke up believing in God.
So we were founded in 1964 from Wrentham, Massachusetts, a monastery of Cistercian nuns. They were founded in the 1940s from Ireland. After the Second World War, their monastery filled up quite quickly.
At the time that I entered Massachusetts, it was 1956, they were the only Cistercian nuns in America. And about 5 or 6 years after I entered, the abbot of Mississippi Abbey invited the sisters to make a foundation in Iowa. And I was one of the sisters chosen to go. Our daily routine is pretty set. What fixes our life each day are the hours of the office, the hours of prayer. So they begin at 3:45 in the morning, so we get up at 3:30. It's very dark, it's very quiet. We really keep silence at that time, and so it's a wonderful time for prayer. It's a favored time for us. Nobody wants to change the morning time, that's set. Part of Cistercian life is that we support ourselves. Some religious, especially contemplatives, live off alms, people giving them gifts to support them. But that was never part of our history, our tradition. So the Sisters of Wrentham started out making bread, and it was a very difficult industry. The bread would get stale, they wouldn't go out and sell enough, and so forth. So finally, a Greek candy maker introduced them to making caramels. They just took off with that. It was a wonderful industry. So when we came to Iowa, they thought we'd find our own industry. So we tried. And we tried making wreaths, and then we tried making cookies. And that was not very successful. So finally, we called home and said, would you mind letting us make candy? And so they very generously gave us their caramel recipe, which is a big secret deal. The candy operation is a very intense operation when we're in full production, from September until December.
We do the chocolate-coated caramels, which are my favorite, and they take the slabs of caramel, which are about 20 pounds, and they send them through a cutter, and it cuts into about 20 different strips. They are coated with chocolate, and then they go through a cooling tunnel, and that lets the chocolate harden around the caramels. And then someone at the end puts them in the boxes.
The candy operation requires working together, and that's great. That is a very bonding thing for the community. We really have a lot of fun often at candy. And of course there are other days when it's not quite so much fun and we're tired and things go wrong.
When I first entered, we were going into candy season, and it was my first time catching, where the caramels are coming off the belt, and you have to catch them and put them in the box. And I couldn't keep up because I was new, and so you're like, oh no, and they're falling all over. And it reminded me of the I Love Lucy moment, where there's that famous scene of her working in a candy factory and she was putting them in her mouth. So I always think of that when I start to get behind.
I kept finding myself drawn back here. The only way I can phrase it is that it seemed to me that Jesus was here for me in this place. He would do more with my prayers here than I would do on my own.
It's a joyful community. We have our ups and downs, of course, but basically we enjoy each other, and that's big, because we take a vow of stability, which means that we stay in one monastery all our life. So it helps if you can have a good time with one another.
This was the one thing that I really realized I would always regret it if I didn't try it.
This life definitely has changed me, I can say, but I feel like it's not done changing me.